Hello, and welcome back to You Better Believe It. I'm Kai, and I'm here with Brady. Today, we'll be discussing our most recent bake, a Basque cheesecake from a local Bay Area baker. Where'd you find this recipe, Brady?
Oh, it's actually kind of a funny story. One day I was just looking through the newspaper because my dad must have left it out for breakfast. And I was just kind of looking at a couple of the articles and not really reading anything. And this article started talking about this Basque cheesecake. And Basque is a region in Spain. And I had just been there, so I was intrigued by the article. And it was about a Japanese baker who had started making them and selling them in the Bay Area. And it had the recipe, so I was decided to make it, and it turned out to be very good. So when we were talking about making a podcast, I was like, well, why don't we make this and talk about it?
Yeah, and once Brady got to my house, we got started. Measuring out all of our ingredients was the logical first step, so we got out our kitchen scale and bowls. That's where our first mistake showed up. The recipe called for 2¼ pounds of cream cheese, but Brady only brought a little more than 2 cups.
Yeah, that was completely my fault. I wasn't thorough enough, I guess. But luckily we had enough time to run to the store, so everything worked out in the end, and that's the important part,
Yes.
is that everything worked out in the end.
And that it did. Once that was sorted out, we got to making the cake. Combining all of our ingredients was a breeze, but once we got the cake in the oven, we had a while to wait. So, we decided to make a small batch of peppermint cookies.
Yeah, the cake took about an hour to cook, which was kind of surprising because the recipe said 50 minutes. But it's just one of those things where you don't have the exact size. But it took a while, and I was kind of surprised because the top was burning, but the inside was just not cooking.
Yeah, that was confusing. But it all worked out, and once the cake was out of the oven, we had to take another 10 minutes for it to cool and finish cooking. Once it was cooled down a bit, we cut it open and served a slice.
What did you think of the taste, Kai?
I was impressed. I thought it was pretty good, albeit a bit burnt around the edges. Although, that's the trouble with really creamy bakes like this. It's hard to get consistency throughout. What about you?
I thought it was very good and very smooth, and I was intrigued by the lack of a crust, and to my surprise, the cake didn't collapse. However, in order to like it, you do really need to like that rich, creamy texture and that rich, creamy flavor. I personally thought it was very good. Would you recommend for people
Definitely.
to make it?
Yeah. That is a good point. The rich, creamy texture is not going to be for everyone, and it is a pretty long bake time, between 50 and 70 minutes. And again, if you aren't really a big fan of cream and eggs, I'd probably point you towards a more traditional cheesecake. Bon Appetit has a really great recipe online.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Kai. I think that's our time, though, so thank you for giving us some of yours today. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you make this cheesecake.
Next week, Brady and I will be making eclairs with a twist. Stay tuned.
That's underbaked. Ooh, perfection. Too much flour there.